You want to hold the microphone right up to you.
Sobre todo, reino y nación, sobre toda humanidad y ley, sobre todo lo creado por tu mano, todo se parece a ti, mi Dios. En la cruz moriste por amor, no faltó dolor ni humillación como flor que alguien pisoteó. Diste tu vida por mí, por amor. En la cruz moriste por amor y no bastó dolor ni humillación como flor que alguien pisoteó. Diste tu vida por mí, por amor. Thank you so much. This is what happened. I didn't sing since 1996. So. But that is a song. It's about before everything, before the kings, before government. That was God, and is God. So things that do not match with the intention that God had for the humans is not good. And I really appreciate all the work that you did for the community. Everything that you've been done, you become a voice for people that do not have a voice. And you step in, and that is amazing. And our people here that I invite today, because they've been working underground. People don't even know that they do this, but they do it. And it's better when everybody united, we become more strong. So that's what I bring them here. So thank you so much. And the next time, I promise you, I will bring musicians.
Thank you. Let's give a big hand to Judith Lopez. Thank you, Judith, for singing with us today. Really appreciate it. First of all, I'd like to say good evening, buenas noches, welcome everyone. We're here today to lend a voice to those that need them. We're here with Indivisible, Columbus, Georgia, and with Paz Amigos, a nonprofit here in town. And we've got some speakers for you, and we're going to first bring up one of the local community pastors, Pastor Herman Lianes and Marta, who's going to interpret for us too. And they want to say a little something first.
Muy buenas tardes.
Good afternoon.
Quiero leer un versículo de la palabra del Señor
I want to read a verse from the word of the Lord.
que dice el Señor Jesucristo: yo soy la resurrección y la vida.
It says, I'm the resurrection and the life.
El que cree en mí,
Who believes in me,
aunque esté muerto, vivirá.
even if it's dead, will live.
Y todo aquel que vive
And everyone that lives
y cree en mí
and believes in me
no morirá eternamente.
will never die eternally.
Y luego el Señor pregunta: ¿crees esto?
God asks, do you believe this?
Y le contestan: sí, Señor, yo he creído
And they answered, yes, God, I believe
que tú eres el Cristo,
that you are the Christ,
el Hijo de Dios,
God's Son,
que ha venido al mundo.
that has come to the world.
Esto sucedió cuando el Señor Jesucristo estaba tratando de resucitar a Lázaro,
This happened when God was trying to resurrect Lazarus.
que posteriormente sucedió.
That later resurrected.
Ahora, hay tres clases de muerte.
There are three types of death.
La muerte física,
Physical death,
que es cuando el alma y el espíritu abandonan el cuerpo.
that happens when life and soul exits the body.
La muerte espiritual,
Spiritual death,
que es cuando la gente tiene vida física,
that happens when people have
pero
physical life,
está muerto espiritualmente.
but they're spiritually dead.
Y la muerte eterna,
And eternal death,
que también la Biblia le llama la muerte segunda,
that is also called the second death,
que es cuando la persona muere física y espiritualmente y va a la condenación eterna.
and this happens when the person dies physically and spiritually.
Ahora, el Señor Jesucristo es el dador de la vida.
God gives us life, is the giver.
Él dijo, yo soy la resurrección y la vida. Yo tengo el control de la vida.
He said, I'm the resurrection and life, and I have control over life.
Y en otra oportunidad dijo, yo he venido para que tengan vida y la tengan en abundancia.
And he also said, I came so you can have life, abundant life.
Y cuando el Señor habla de la vida abundante, está hablando, aparte de la vida física, la vida espiritual.
And when he says you'll have abundant life, he's not only talking about physical life, but spiritual life.
Y la vida espiritual viene cuando tenemos una relación personal con Él.
And spiritual life comes when we have a relationship with him.
Cuando le invitamos a vivir en nuestro corazón.
When we invite him to live in our hearts,
Entonces Él comienza a darnos esa vida que necesitamos.
that's when he starts giving that life that we need.
Todos necesitamos tener vida espiritual para disfrutar de la vida eterna.
We all need to have a spiritual life in order to have physical life and eternal life.
Al recordar a estas personas que murieron en circunstancias difíciles,
When we remember these guys that passed away in hard circumstances,
queremos orar y estar buscando la vida espiritual.
we want to pray and we want to keep looking for a spiritual life.
No sabemos en qué circunstancias ellos murieron, no sabemos si ellos alcanzaron la vida espiritual y la vida eterna.
We don't know what circumstances they died. We don't know if they had eternal life or if they were okay with the Lord.
Pero nosotros ahora tenemos la oportunidad
But right now we have the chance
de vivir bajo el control de Dios,
to live under God's control,
de vivir en su voluntad
to live the life He wants us to live,
y de aprender a amar a los demás como el Señor nos amó.
and to learn how to love others the way God has loved us.
Él dijo, en esto conocerán que son verdaderamente mis discípulos,
And He said, this way you'll know who my true disciples are.
en que se amen los unos a los otros como yo les he amado.
If you love each other the way I've loved you.
Amigos, sigamos transmitiendo este amor
Let's keep sharing this love,
y que Dios nos ayude.
and God help us.
Quiero hacer una pequeña oración.
I want to do a little prayer.
Padre, gracias te damos
Father, we thank you
por la oportunidad de conocerte.
for the opportunity to meet you.
Gracias por amarnos
Thank you for loving us
de una manera especial como tú lo has hecho.
in a special way.
Ayúdanos, Señor,
Help us, Lord,
a amar a los demás.
to love others,
Y permite que esta organización que está ayudando a los inmigrantes
and allow this organization that's helping immigrants
siga creciendo
to keep growing
y sirviendo a esta comunidad.
and serving this community.
En el nombre de Jesús.
In Jesus' name we pray.
Amén.
Amen.
Thank you, very much. Thank you. Well, I'm wearing my Indivisible hat. My name is Rita Ellis, and I'm with Indivisible Columbus, Georgia. If you don't know about us and you'd like to join us, we have a table with sign-in sheets, and we even have voter registration if you haven't registered to vote yet, because our main push for Indivisible is we want every voice to be heard and every voice to be recognized. And in particular, we have a progressive agenda where we don't care whether it's a Democrat or a Republican or an independent in office. We want them to do what is right for the people. And we are going to push them to do those policies and those procedures that will help facilitate immigration reform, healthcare reform, all of those things. Today, across the nation, indivisible groups are doing a Defund Hate rally. And you're here at one of them. You guys are pretty awesome. Thank you for coming. But what I want to do is tell you, it sounds a little bit like a civics class right now, but it's very important. The main focus of the Defund Hate campaign is that those of us who are voters in this country must exercise that right and contact our members of Congress, whether they're Representative Sanford Bishop, whether they're Representative Drew Ferguson, or either senators, Isaacson or Perdue. You have the right, and actually I hope you are compelled to call them and tell them you want to defund hate. You see the message, it's everywhere. Defund hate. Sanford Bishop's office is literally across the street in that white building, that tower building on the 4th floor. Feel free to walk across and knock on his door anytime during the day. He has staff members there, and tell them that you do not want any more funding. And in fact, to defund a lot of the money that's going into the Department of Homeland Security is being directed to CBP, which is Customs and Border Patrol, or to ICE, which is Immigration and thank you. Yes. Enforcement. Yes. But so we want to defund ICE and defund the CBP. And what they're doing is very sneaky. This is why it's so important for us to have this meeting today, because they are actually taking money from other programs like FEMA. It's called reappropriation. They're taking money themselves. They're taking it and putting it in to build the wall, to build more detention centers. That cannot happen, people. We have way too many. We just heard, in fact, that they're having an urban warfare training center being built at Fort Benning. We don't need that. We need to have more immigration courts. We need more immigration attorneys. We need more immigration hearings so that the men and women and children can get back to their families as quickly as possible. So I'm asking you and compelling those that can vote and those that have a voice for those that don't, to please call your representatives. Please make those calls. We have the numbers up on the board here. And if you don't, Charlie will give them to you 10 times a day if you want them, okay? We can do this. They need to hear us. And I heard many years ago that if a representative gets 4 phone calls in one day, that's considered a lot, and they have to pay attention. So we can sure as heck give them a lot more than 4 phone calls. We need to defund hate in this country. We need to make immigration civilized and honor those that are trying to escape from situations they can't get out of, and treat them with the respect they deserve. And thank you very much. I'm going to pass you now to Bill from Paz Amigos to tell you what Paz Amigos is doing here in Columbus.
Thank you, Rita, and thank you to special thank you to all my friends, fellow members of Indivisible, which has really changed my life since moving to Columbus, because Indivisible gave me the opportunity on I think it was a Sunday afternoon to go meet Susan Krysak. And Susan Krysak is the reason that most of us are here this evening. Susan Krysak, for 5 years alone, with no fanfare whatsoever, began almost by accident helping out men who had recently been released from the Stewart Detention Center. And it happened, Susan, forgive me if I get it a little wrong, but saw a guy wandering around downtown, and Susan, being Susan, asked him if he needed help. And here we are today. Susan came to Indivisible and wondered if we might be able to help out a little bit, because this had taken over her life, helping these men week in, week out. We didn't really know what she meant until we started doing it in February. I don't know, there's 30 of us in the organization, and I think probably 10 or 15 regulars, and we can barely keep up with what Susan did for 5 years. When men are released from the detention center, occasionally they have tickets and their families giving them enough money to travel where they need to go in the United States. and they're fine. Most often, they're dropped off in Columbus, and a lot of times they don't even know where Columbus, Georgia is. Many of them think they're in Atlanta. They often have no money. They are wearing the clothes they were arrested in. So if they're dropped off in February, they're often wearing the clothes they were arrested in McAllen, Texas in August. They have no phone, no way to contact their family, and rarely do they have enough money to travel where they're going. Plus, they probably missed dinner that day and they're hungry. So clothing, food, shelter, communications, and tickets to safety is what they need. Susan provided that for 5 years. We've been doing it since February, and for some of us, not me, but for Rita and some others, it's turning into practically a full-time job. So when these men arrive, the first thing we do is we have a bag of cell phones and we have Spanish speakers. If anybody's a Tamil speaker or a Nepali speaker or a Mandarin speaker, please step up. We need you. But we use Google Translate, and some of us can speak a little Spanish. We connect them with their families. Then we give them some food and water. Then we, once they start talking to their families and find out when their travel arrangements are, it's usually the next day, so we put them up for the night. And then we get them a ride either to the bus station or to Groom. Just last night, one of our volunteers, who wasn't even on duty, Monica, happened to notice an ICE van pull up to the Greyhound bus station. Monica, how many guys were there? Three guys were there. They all had plane tickets. They got dropped off at the Greyhound station. So we found a way to get them to Groom so they could get to their planes. Night before last, we had 8 Cubans dropped off, unannounced. Night before that, well, it goes on, and I could go on and on. But thank you, Susan. Thank you, Indivisible. And thank you all for your generosity. There's lots of ways to get involved. You don't have to necessarily be among the crew that shows up at Groom, although we'd love to have you. But we've had tremendous financial support from the community. We've raised thousands of dollars from the community. We've had packs of clothing and toiletries and all kinds of things from groups in Atlanta are delivering them. We even have a Paz Amigos chapter now in Atlanta that helps men once they get off the Groom transportation thing in Atlanta, Hartsfield, helps them either get to the bus station or to their airplane. So thank you, Susan. Thank you, Indivisible. And thank you all for supporting Paz Amigos.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Paz Amigos. Next up is Monica Watley, who's going to tell us some stories of some of the men. Thank you, Monica.
Hello. Buenas tardes. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to try to do this in 2 languages. Voy a tratar de hacer esto en 2 idiomas so that everyone can understand, para que todos entiendan. So I can feel Pedro present with us right now and all the men whose names are listed over here. Yo siento a Pedro aquí presente con nosotros y todas las personas cuyos nombres están aquí. This is a space of healing tonight, but it's also a site of resistance and resilience. Este es un espacio de sanación esta noche, pero también es un lugar de resistencia y resiliencia. Sharing stories like Pedro's and Giancarlo's and Efraín's that we're going to hear from Susan gives us strength to continue the fight and support ourselves and each other during these difficult times. Compartir historias como la de Pedro y Giancarlo y Efraín, que Susan va a compartir ahorita, nos da fuerza para seguir la lucha y apoyar cada uno de nosotros durante estos tiempos difíciles. So I want to share a few testimonials from people who are not with us, who are or were recently detained at Stewart, so that they too can be heard and heal with us. So quiero compartir algunos testimonios de gente que no están aquí esta noche. Gente detenida actualmente o recientemente fueron liberados de Stewart, para que ellos también puedan ser escuchados y curarse con nosotros esta noche. I will begin with one man who is still detained at Stewart right now. He wants us to know about the conditions inside Stewart. Voy a empezar con alguien que todavía está detenido ahora en Stewart. Él quiere decirnos sobre las condiciones dentro de Stewart. In the kitchen, vegetable soup is a part of every meal. And if there are a lot of leftovers, then we have it twice a day so as not to throw away the leftovers. Some of us have gotten food poisoning, and it is unbearable. We are drowning in imposed rules, and we do not have any consolation, not even with the food. Una sopa de vegetales está formada por todas las comidas, y si es mucha la sobra, entonces por no botarla nos hacen 2 tiempos esa comida, para no botar ese reciclaje. Y al final esa comida nos intoxica y no podemos aguantarlo. Vivimos sumergidos a las reglas que imponen y no tenemos nada que nos consuele, ni siquiera la comida. Work. My job pays $10 for the whole week, Monday to Friday. Trabajo. Se trabaja por $10 por toda la semana, de lunes a viernes. Here's a testimony from someone who was recently released. Aquí está un testimonio de alguien que fue recién liberado. My name is Cuenga. I was in Stewart for 4 months, and these 4 months were not easy. First, the food was not good. Second, the officers there treat us poorly. Third, there are people that have spent more than 2 years inside the detention center with no hope of getting out. There are 66 people inside one unit with 3 toilets. Mi nombre es Cuenga. Estuve en Stewart por 4 meses y esos 4 meses no fueron fácil. 1, la comida no estuvo bien. 2, los oficiales no trataron muy mal. Y 3, hay gente que han estado sufriendo en detención por más de 2 años sin esperanza para salir. Hay 66 personas en una sola unidad con 3 inodoros y baños. This last testimony is also from someone who was recently released. Este último testimonio es de alguien que también fue recientemente liberado. My name is Tega. First, I want to criticize the inhumane concentration of immigrants in detention camps. I wish to let you guys know that we are often transported from one detention center to another in an airplane with chains on our hands, waist, and legs. Yet they will tell us, in case of an emergency, you can use the exit doors with chains around us. Many people have tried to commit suicide in these facilities. One Cameroonian guy, like myself, tried to kill himself in a facility in Tallahatchie, Mississippi, because of the bad conditions in detention. I pray the Congress of the United States of America put an end to these detention facilities because many are suffering in here. Me llamo Tega. Primero quiero criticar a la concentración inhumana de inmigrantes en los campos de detención. Deseo informarles que a menudo somos transportados de una detención a otra en un avión con cadenas en nuestras manos, cintura y piernas. Nos dicen que en caso de emergencia podemos usar las puertas de salida con cadenas a nuestro alrededor. Muchas personas han intentado suicidarse en estas instalaciones. Un señor de Camerún como yo intentó suicidarse en una instalación de Tallahatchie, Mississippi, debido a las malas condiciones de detención. Rezo para que el Congreso de los Estados Unidos de América ponga fin a estos centros de detención porque muchos están sufriendo aquí. Thank you.
Thank you, Monica. Thank you for those compelling reports. And now I'd like to introduce Susan Krysak, who will be speaking about the 6 men who have lost their lives while at Stewart Detention Center in Lumpkin, Georgia.
Thank you, Rita. Thank you all for being here tonight. And I just love your hearts. Everyone who is here, I love the peace you are bringing into the world. You know, we have become a country that is a country of the most incarcerated in the world. And it's snowballing. It's becoming more and more incarcerated. But we need to become a country of love and peace that snowballs. Because if we don't, we're only going to end up with lots of razor wire. What are we going to do with all of that razor wire? Tonight, I want to celebrate and to honor 6 beautiful men. I'm going to step down here to Roberto first. And I'll just take his son here. This is Roberto.
Susan, up closer, your microphone closer.
This is Roberto. Thank you, Rita. He is from Mexico. Roberto was the first man to die in immigrant detention in the state of Georgia. He had a heart infection that was easily curable, but being in detention, he did not survive. The reason he was taken is because he did not have a driver's license. So he was only 39 years old and lost his life. Roberto. That was in 2009. And then there was Giancarlo Jimenez. He was from Panama, only 27 years old. Giancarlo suffered incredibly in solitary confinement at Stewart Detention Center, 19 days locked in there, hearing voices, crying out for help. One of the men who stayed at my house was also in solitary confinement when Giancarlo was in there. And he talked of his screams for help, how he begged for help, how they would be in the cage outside at the same time, and how sad this man was. And Ali, the one who was also in there, told me, he said, I felt what it was like to starve to death over and over. And he felt forgotten. And Giancarlo could no longer take the voices and the sadness and no one listening to him. And he hung himself after 19 days. He loved music, loved art, had a beautiful family. He was just a young 27-year-old man from Panama. Probably the one I'm the closest to because I have health problems and he had health problems, and he was 58 years old. He was just traveling from Ecuador to Atlanta, and because he was missing a paper, he was taken at the Atlanta airport. He was shackled and taken to the Atlanta City Detention Center, a very hard prison for immigrants in downtown Atlanta. He lived 3 days after that, just vacationing. He could have handled his heart disease. He could have handled his diabetes. But when your medicine is taken away from you and is decided by strangers, and when you're shackled, and when you're in a cold place with a hard surface to sleep on, you cannot survive. I think I feel such a closeness to this man from India, whose family we never found, whose photo we never found. And then there's Julio from Cuba. Julio had an 8-year-old son when he died and a wife that loved him deeply. He was a truck driver. He drove big trucks and he had the kindest heart. I knew men at the detention center who knew him. And they said he was a big, healthy, tall man with a great laugh, a great personality, who just adored his family. He developed pneumonia at Stewart Detention Center, and another man who stayed at my house told me at my kitchen table that when he got sick, that the heat was not working at Stewart in the 20-degree weather. He developed the pneumonia and he had to go onto a respirator. For many days he was on a respirator. And when you're sick and you're an immigrant in a detention center, you are shackled to the bed. And then he went into a coma and died. Beautiful man. And he was 33 years old. And then Ephraim. He was from Mexico and 40 years old, one of the most recent men to die, also locked in solitary confinement for 21 days. He was so loved by his family and by his brother. And he just also could not take the confinement. It's like, I think if we want to understand a little, go into a closet and lock yourself in there for 3 hours, but first make it freezing cold, and first make sure that you're hungry. And go in that closet and stay in there for 3 hours and see what that feels like in a cold closet, hungry. But he did it for 21 days, begging for help, asking for his family, asking to go home. He had a deportation order. That's all they needed to do was send him to his family in Mexico. So finally, when nobody would listen to him, when nothing would happen, he hung himself. And if you want to watch, Jose Olivares with National Public Radio has done a great story on Afrin. He has done a great story on him, and you can actually see the video before he died and after he died. Jose fought very hard to get the video footage, and it shows you just the huge mistakes that were made, not even having machines that worked that were supposed to work, and his medicines not being given to him when he had severe mental illness. And then our last person, who died on July the 24th, 2019 from Mexico at the age of 44, Pedro. You are Pedro's family because we could not find his family or a photo of him. And he died, he suffered very deeply in the hospital. He had severe stomach pain, and then had to be put on a respirator. Again, if he had had the freedom to go home, because he'd had a deportation order for 40 days, and it was just to Mexico, he could have had that health care. I personally believe that the stress of being chained to a bed with severe stomach pain contributed to his heart stopping. Thank you so much. I would like to also thank Indivisible and the Pasamigos, and I would especially like to thank Rita for just saving me, and Rita's husband Miles, Carolyn with Indivisible, and all of you who are here. I hope we can stop the suffering, because if we not think about it, right down this road 40 minutes from here, there are 2,000 more men scared and suffering, and they're scared of the same thing happening to them. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Could everybody please come to the front? We're going to have a real treat. We're going to have a song sung by Olivia Garcia. And I want everybody with their candles that can make it. Please come up the stairs. Sorry. Here you go, Olivia. Just in the front of Olivia.
Everyone with your candles. Each other. Gather around.
Gather around.
I heard there was a secret chord that David played and it pleased the Lord, but you don't really care for music, do ya? It goes like this: the fourth, the fifth, the minor fall, the major lift, the baffled king composing hallelujah. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Faith was strong, but you needed proof. You saw her bathing on the roof, her beauty and the moonlight. Oh, hallelujah. She tied you to her kitchen chair. She broke your throne and she cut your And all I ever learned from love was how to shoot somebody who'd outdrew ya. It's not a cry that you hear at night. It's not someone who sees the light. It's a cold, it's a broken hallelujah. 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 Hallelujah.
Thank you, Olivia. Everybody on the steps that has candles, we'll get a picture of everybody. Thank you for coming tonight, and please keep all the men in Stewart in your prayers and in your thoughts, and help out when you can.
And everybody was like, "What now? How do you like? What is the Lord?" Like, it's the same.
Hold Pedro up high. Yes. Perfect.
Thank you all for coming. Have a great night, and keep fighting the fight, people. Keep fighting the power. Blow out your candles.
Before you get in your car.
Hallelujah.